Have you ever felt like you're living maybe two distinct lives?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one you show everyone, and then this other private self that only really comes out with certain people.
Oh, absolutely. Or maybe that feeling that there's just one person who truly, truly gets you, sees all the messy parts and everything.
Exactly. And that whole idea, that tension, is really what we're digging into today with Sally Rooney's book, Normal People. It's just brilliant, critically acclaimed.
It really is. It's not just a story about young love, is it? It goes so much deeper into things like intimacy, identity, the masks we all kind of wear.
Yeah. So our goal here is to unpack that super complex relationship between the main characters, Marianne and Connell.
Right, and maybe uncover some surprising insights about human connection along the way. Their journey is, well, it's quite something.
As we get into their story, it's a good moment to think about, how we try to understand our own lives, our own connections. Maybe you look for insights on places like, say, the Mindful Moments YouTube channel, trying to navigate complex feelings, relationships, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and today we're doing something similar, I guess, but using this really compelling book as our lens. It's just a very raw, powerful narrative.
Okay, so let's jump right in. It starts in secondary school, Caraclea, January 2011. And you see this immediate contrast.
Right. Connell's the popular one. Quiet, plays football. Everyone seems to like him.
And Marianne. She's smart, clearly, but a total outsider, socially isolated.
Yeah.
Plus, there's that class difference.
Yeah, that's significant. Connell's mom, Lorraine, she cleans for Marianne's family, who are wealthy but, well, pretty cold and dysfunctional.
And despite all that, somehow they start this secret relationship.
And what's fascinating is how that secrecy creates this sense of total privacy for Connell, as the book puts it. It's like a space where he can tell her anything, even weird things. It's described almost like opening a door away from normal life and then closing it behind him.
A private world just for them.
Exactly. A refuge, really, from the public image he works so hard to maintain. Rooney just nails that feeling, how that secret intimacy is maybe the only place he can be truly himself.
But that gap, that huge difference between his private life with her and his public one, it leads to this really, really painful moment.
The Debs. April 2011. Their version of a prom, basically.
Right. And instead of inviting Marianne, who he's secretly involved with, he asks Rachel, someone, socially acceptable.
He's terrified. The book says he thinks if people found out what he's been doing with Marianne in secret while ignoring her every day in school, his life would be over.
It's an extreme reaction, isn't it? He fears being seen like a serial killer or worse. That fear of judgment is just overwhelming for him.
It's crippling, and it shows how much power those social expectations have, enough to make him betray this incredibly important connection.
And for Marianne, it's just crushing. Humiliation doesn't even cover it. It shatters that private world.
Yeah, she ends up leaving school because of it. And even Connell's own mom, Lorraine, who gets the social dynamics, she tells him straight, doesn't deserve you.
Hits hard, doesn't it?
It really does. It just highlights how much he prioritized that image over her feelings. And it's a pattern we see again, unfortunately.
So they go off to college. Trinity College in Dublin, November 2011. And things kind of flip, don't they?
Oh, big time. Connell, who was Mr. Popular back home, suddenly feels completely lost at Trinity. Lonely.
He feels like he's upgraded himself accidentally to an intellectual level far above his own.
Yeah, exactly. Struggling in tutorials, trying to keep up, while also noticing that a lot of his classmates weren't actually doing the reading, but could still talk the talk.
It's such a role reversal.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Marianne seems to be blossoming, socially at least. She's got friends, she seems confident.
And it's a big but. She gets involved in these really unhealthy relationships, with Jamie, then later with Lucas. It's like her outward confidence hides something else.
Right. And this change of scene, it really exposes their underlying issues, doesn't it?
Totally. For Connell, Trinity seems to amplify his anxiety and depression, which gets much, much worse after his friend Rob's suicide in January 2013. That hits him hard.
We see him in counseling, struggling to even articulate how he feels. He says things like, his future is hopeless and will only get worse.
And admits, I just don't have a lot of people who I really click with. That isolation is profound. Sometimes he literally can't move for hours. And the guilt over Rob's last message, it's just devastating.
It shows how much his sense of self is tied up in struggling to connect outside of Marianne.
Definitely. And Marianne's internal struggle during this time is Well, it's harrowing. She has this deep-seated belief that she's inherently a bad person.
That she deserves bad things.
Yeah, and you see how that's rooted in her family life. The abuse from her brother Alan. I mean, he tells her she should kill myself. It's brutal.
And her mother's passive acceptance of it all, believing it's acceptable for men to use aggression towards Marianne. It's just awful.
It creates this devastating foundation. So her experiences later, like the BDSM stuff with Lucas and Jamie, where she says things like, I don't know if I really like it. Maybe I want to be treated badly.
It's not just shock value.
Not at all. It feels like a manifestation of that trauma, maybe a way to feel punished or controlled, because that's what she feels she deserves on some level. It's incredibly sad.
And it's in these times when they're apart and suffering in their own ways that you really see how much they actually rely on each other, even if they don't admit it.
That's a great point. It's like their pain highlights their interdependence. Connell eventually regrets not asking to stay with her one summer, July 2012, I think it was.
And later, he realizes he projected some anxiety onto her about what people thought. That's a big moment of self-awareness for him.
Huge. He finally gets it that the secret for which he had sacrificed his own happiness and the happiness of another person had been trivial all along. But it's a realization that comes, after a lot of damage has been done.
Such a tragic element to it. But despite all the pain, all the missteps, they keep finding their way back to each other.
They do. And there's that really critical moment, July 2014, when Connell physically steps in during an altercation with her brother, Alan. He rescues her.
It's raw, intense.
Yeah.
And he finally says it out loud. I love you. I'm not going to let anything like that happen to you again.
That's a massive turning point. It moves things from secrecy and unspoken feelings to actual explicit support. A real declaration.
And from there, the dynamic shifts again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it becomes more reciprocal in a way. She becomes the person he can actually talk to about his mental health struggles.
He even tells her, you really helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. And he sees her as someone he can ask things of. Rooney describes their conversations beautifully, doesn't she? They're like figure skaters, improvising their discussions so adeptly and in such perfect synchronization that it surprises them both.
That's such a great image. It captures that unique intellectual and emotional connection they have. It's like they're perfectly tuned in to each other.
But even then, it's not simple. Their intimacy still has these really complex edges.
Like when Marianne asks him about BDSM. Still dealing with her trauma in complicated ways.
Right. And Connell, even though he clearly desires her, he refuses. And his reason is so telling.
He feels that letting anyone else into that private space, even just watching, would destroy something essential.
Exactly. He thinks their privacy between himself and Marianne be invaded by Peggy or by another person would destroy something inside him, a part of his selfhood. He just can't perform their intimacy for anyone else.
Oh, so it's not about the act itself necessarily, but about the sanctity of their connection. It's just for them.
Precisely. That refusal, weirdly, kind of underlines how unique and inviolable their bond is in his mind. It's not for show.
So even though they aren't a couple in the usual sense, not exclusive.
Right. They defy those labels. But the depth is undeniable. The book says she knew he loved her. She doesn't wonder about that anymore. That's huge for Marianne.
And when she says to him, you can do anything you want with me, even if he often rejects the physical implication of that.
It speaks volumes about her trust in him, right?
Yeah.
He's the one person who sees her, truly sees her, and protects her in a way nobody else does. It's this profound, unconditional acceptance.
Okay, so bringing it towards the end of their story in the book. Yeah. What happens?
Well, Connell gets this amazing opportunity, an offer for an MFA program, creative writing, in New York. This is February 2015.
And Marianne.
Her reaction is incredible, really. She wholeheartedly encourages him to go, tells him he has to. She even says she'll stay in Dublin. It's very selfless.
Wow. So the ending, it leaves their romantic future kind of open, doesn't it?
It does. Ambiguous. Yeah. But what it does solidify is the depth and endurance of their connection. Marianne believes Connell wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you.
That she made a new life possible for him.
Yeah, acknowledging the huge impact they've had on each other. Rooney uses that amazing metaphor, remember? Mm-hmm. Two little plants sharing the same plot of soil, growing around one another, contorting to make room.
Oh, I love that. It perfectly captures how they've shaped each other, grown together, sometimes painfully, but always intertwined.
Exactly. It suggests their connection allows for individual growth, for self-actualization, even if that means being physically apart for a while.
It's such a powerful statement about growth, isn't it? And acceptance, and making those really tough choices, sometimes for yourself, sometimes for the other person.
It shows that real connection isn't about owning someone or fitting into neat boxes. It's about enabling each other to become who they need to be.
So, Wrapping up our thoughts on normal people, what really sticks with you is just how raw and honest it is about connection.
Definitely. It reminds us that relationships, especially the really deep ones, are hardly ever tidy or straightforward.
No neat bows here.
Not at all. It's always this dance, isn't it? Between how we look to the world and who we are privately, shaped by our pasts, our insecurities, constantly evolving.
Yeah, and much like the kind of self-reflection you might find on channels like Mindful Moments or listening to other thoughtful podcasts, this book really pushes you to think about your own connections.
About what it takes to be truly authentic, to be really seen by someone else, the vulnerability involved.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on. Think about those unspoken rules in your own relationships.
Yeah, or the ways you guard your private self, those little power dynamics that always seem to be there.
How much of our real selves do we actually share? And who do we share it with?
And maybe, what would it feel like to be completely, utterly seen by just one person? It's a profound thought.
Absolutely. So, look, if this conversation got you thinking, we highly recommend reading Sally Rooney's Normal People if you haven't already. It's quite an experience.
Oh, for sure. We'll put a link to where you can find the book in the description.
And if you enjoyed this discussion, please do subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend who enjoys these kinds of deep dives into stories.
Yeah, and leave us a review. It really helps us keep these conversations going.
Until next time, keep thinking critically and keep diving deep.